I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill, then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all. Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Road management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid, we welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final on this Tuesday on the Early Line right here all across the SportsGrid network. He is Joe Ranieri. I am Ben Stevens. One more hour to go, where for the first 2 hours, a lot of our focus has been on the NFL. The opening round of the first ever 12-team college football playoff will change pace ever so slightly here in hour number 3. A lot of basketball talk coming your way. The championship of the second ever in-season tournament in the association tonight out in Las Vegas. It's the Thunder and the Bucks for the NBA Cup. We'll take a look at some college basketball on this Tuesday and beyond. Jon Rothstein will join the show later on in this third and final hour. And today really fully begins bowl season. Yes, we had a bowl game on Saturday night, the Salute to Veterans Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama. But today, a doubleheader of bowl action, where for 16 of the next 19 days up until January 14th, or January 4th, that being, Joe, we have at least one FBS college football bowl game, including the college football playoff. What a time we have. Merry bowl season to all, and to all, a good morning, Joe, on the Early Line.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Ben. It gets kicked off this week, college football championships. You mix in a little Memphis, West Virginia for some little bowl action. We got a little something for everybody, including, like you mentioned, the NBA Cup, which might be the most boring game we see yet.
Whoa, boring? With a championship at stake? You're going to have to explain yourself on that one, Joe Ranieri, when we get there in just a little bit. But a little bit NFL talk to open up this third and final hour based on the results of last night, a Monday night doubleheader to end out Week 15. The Minnesota Vikings take care of business as the odds expected at home against the Chicago Bears. The Vikings win comfortably 30-12, covering as a 7-point home favorite. Joe, we have spent a lot of time on Minnesota's playoff outlook. What is at stake for the Vikes over the final 3 weeks of this regular season? But what do the people think? How far will the Vikings go on their conquest in the NFC postseason? That was the question to all of you in Fade the Public. At SportsGrid on Twitter, how far will the Vikings go this season? NFC champions, or at least reaching that NFC title game, reaching the divisional round, courtesy of, I guess, either a victory in the wild card round, or perhaps, Joe, they catch the stumbling Lions atop the NFC North and earn that opening round bye as the 1 seed. That would be rather surprising. Or they reach the postseason but are bounced in the opening round. Joe, here's how the public is seeing it right now. Actually, a lot of the public voting for Minnesota, more than likely based on our current playoff structure, to win at least one playoff game and reach the divisional round. 47% on this Fade the Public poll. Joe, what are you saying? Are you fading the public?
No, I'm actually not on this one, Ben. I believe they are more than capable of being able to get it. And I just call me crazy. I just don't think, and I think we're starting to see it finally, although it took a little bit longer than expected. You know, when you're playing rookie quarterbacks, boy, that defense looks great, right? When you're playing backup quarterbacks, that Minnesota defense looks great. You know who else doesn't look great, though? Sam Darnold. There were a number of throws last night that were absolutely turnover worthy. He is capable of that. And although he's played great this year here, Ben, I think a lot of things have broken Minnesota's way. I think that changes come the playoffs. I wouldn't be backing Minnesota to upset anybody come the playoffs.
So, Joe, there are so many components to this Vikings conversation, both down the stretch of this regular season, what a playoff game would be for Minnesota, more than likely on the road in the wild card round against teams that we'll talk about in just a moment. What all the success that was not anticipated this year in the Twin Cities means for Sam Darnold and beyond for J.J. McCarthy, who, of course, was picked early on in the opening round by Minnesota as well. Let's start with the remainder of this regular season. We have talked about the Vikings' difficult schedule to end things out. More than likely, Minnesota is not going to catch the Lions in the NFC North to win the division, meaning, more than likely, Minnesota will be on the road to start off this postseason. They do play the Packers for a second time next weekend, taking on Green Bay. That game will be at home in the Twin Cities. Win that one, they're pretty much solidified, Joe, into that top wild card spot, the 5 seed, which, as of right now, would be a road trip to L.A. to take on the Rams. But really, it could be either the Rams as the NFC West champ, another team that would come from nowhere, or at least come from behind to win the NFC West, or the champions of the NFC South, right now the Bucs, a hefty favorite to do that. Joe, I think you could make an argument, however, for whether it's the Vikings or the Packers in those top 2 wildcard spots to take on the 3 or 4 seed, the champions of the NFC South and West respectively. They might be an underdog on the road, but they're not going to be an overwhelming dog, and it could potentially end up as a slight favored number for the Vikings if they were to head to Tampa to take on Baker and the Bucs.
A lot of right styles make fights, man, and that's going to be the big issue on how and who they draw. But I'll tell you this right now, that offensive line and Darashaw and company being knocked out, they got some issues on that offensive line. And against the better defenses, those issues are going to get really magnified here. They were magnified last night against a Bears front that was coming after them. But they, and hence why you saw Sam Darnold finally struggle and come back down to earth there a little bit. That's going to get even more magnified the better the teams are, especially when you're playing from behind. The Vikings weren't playing from behind last night. We'll see what Sam Darnold has in the playoffs when they have to play from behind.
It was not a great game for Sam Darnold nor that offense, despite 30 points against a Bears defense that really just doesn't have much left in the tank. Sammy D entered the game with 4 consecutive, not throwing an interception and multiple touchdown passes. In fact, immediately following a 5-touchdown and nearly 350-yard performance in the revenge game against Kirk Cousins a weekend ago in Minneapolis. Last night, though, just 24 of 40, 231, a touchdown, and a pick. Joe, they drafted J.J. McCarthy, 10th overall in the opening round of the 2024 NFL Draft. We actually expected probably McCarthy to win the job out of training camp and was injured in that opening preseason game. The torn meniscus, needing surgery, obviously out for the remainder of this year. Sam Darnold signed with Minnesota this offseason on a 1-year, $10 million deal after a solid season as the backup in San Francisco. They expected Darnold to provide a little bit of veteran savvy, if you will, to groom J.J. McCarthy into the face of the franchise expected in Minneapolis. And now Sam Darnold is having the best season of his career. The Vikings are 12-2, and McCarthy is rehabbing an injury. Obviously, we still expect the Vikings to make the call to J.J. McCarthy next year. But if Sam Darnold gets the Vikings to the divisional round, what does Minnesota do?
Well, it's the same situation with what that just had with Kirk Cousins, isn't it? I mean, a mid-30s quarterback that you have his replacement ready to go. I mean, you're not going to pay Darnold the money that he's going to want now because he delivered this year. I think they move on.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the case as well. We'll get to the start of Week 16 next.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
You know, I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Cha-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Road management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The start of a new NFL week is never far away, even in the final 3 of this National Football League regular season. Huge game on a short week Thursday. A divisional duel between two teams that really can't win the division, as the Chiefs have already clinched the AFC West for a 9th consecutive season, but two teams battling literally against one another, not just on Thursday, but for wild card positioning within the AFC playoff picture. We head to Los Angeles, where to start week number 16, the Chargers host the Denver Broncos. LA got beat on Sunday despite having a 17-3 lead at the break against the Buccaneers at home. Tampa scored all 27 points in the second half. They won big 40-17. The Broncos were trailing 13-7 early on in the second half as well at home against the Colts. But then the costly fumble at the goal line from Jonathan Taylor, and Denver never looked back, scoring the final 24 points of that game to win 31-13 and cover as a favorite. Here we are, Joe, another full field goal number in favor of LA at home in SoFi. Total stands at 42 and a hook. Divisional duel without divisional implications, but huge postseason ramifications around that AFC playoff picture. Where do you start the handicap for Thursday night football in SoFi?
Pretty simple. The last 10 times that these two teams have met, it's gone under 9 of those 10 times. Overall, Ben, 8 of their last 9. The total, under 41 points in this one here. I mean, call me crazy. The Chargers, just in the AFC West games this year, have a total of 36, 39, 27, and 32 points. Okay, how are we getting over 42 and a half, man? The answer is we're not. This is going to be much of the same. If it ain't broke, we ain't fixing it. I would expect a big effort from the Chargers defense coming off an embarrassing defeat there against Tampa at home. I think you see a much better effort in this one, and we already know Denver's defense more than capable of making life miserable. I like the under in this one.
Yeah, I completely agree, Joe. A short week game at 42 and a half for what the Chargers really need out of this one. They need to get back to what worked so well early on in the season. That was taking the onus off of the now banged-up Justin Herbert, trusting the ground game, and relying on a stout defense under Jesse Minter as well. Under in 7 of the first 8 for the Chargers this year. Now over in 4 of their last 6. 8 wins for LA. They have gone under in 5 of those 8. In fact, Joe, in the first 7 victories for LA, they were booked as a favorite, and they had covered in 6 of those 7. So that's where LA is at its best, despite losing as a field goal favorite at home last week to the Buccaneers. Denver has been a great team this year, surpassing expectation in year number 2 for Sean Payton in the rookie campaign of Bo Nix. Denver's one of the best cover teams in the National Football League this year. Not just 9-5 straight up, but also, Joe, when you look at it, 11-3, against the spread. But where they have been better against the number is a perfect 7-0 against the spread as the favored side, meaning they have not been bad as an underdog. They're still 4-3 ATS with a couple of outright victories in there as well. But when Denver has been expected to beat a team, they do, and they often do so in impressive fashion. When they're an underdog, it might be for a little bit more of the reason as well.
Yeah, I think that's exactly correct. If they're a dog for a reason. I think Bo Nix kind of took a little bit of a step back, too, last week. Yeah. Kind of reverted back to that the rookie that he really is. I mean, you got to give him credit to what they have done here. But, yeah, I don't trust either of these two teams to be dropping 28 or more points here unless the defenses play out of their mind and get some turnovers. But I do think that's a good point. They are a favorite. They are a dog in this spot here for a reason. I like the Chargers to win it, but I do think it's going to be closer than some expect in Denver, but woefully under the 42.5 points.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, short week as well. We know how banged up the Bolts were, especially offensively, entering Sunday. Justin Herbert dealing with a ton of injuries at this point. Denver relatively healthy on both sides of the football, but still short week on the road. The Broncos have been favored in 4 consecutive games. To start off this year, though, when expectation was not as high in Mile High, the Broncos were an underdog in all 4 of their games to start off this season. They had covered in 3, winning outright in 2. Joe, they've only been a dog 3 other times from the end of week 4. They have not covered twice. They did cover against the Chiefs, of course, the game that KC won by blocking a field goal in Arrowhead that would have given the Broncos an outright win. Again, speaking of scoring at a premium, Denver is 4-3 against the spread this year as an underdog. When they have covered the number, it has stayed under a total. Just to let you know where that is, 3 of the 4 times. And again, Joe, an important game for both of these teams because right now, both occupy a wild card spot. The Chargers in that third and final, but still 2 games in front of everybody else around the AFC. Denver a game in front of LA. But the Broncos lost to the Chargers way back in the middle of October at home. The Chargers now at home as a favorite. It could do a lot for them, Joe, to have the same record as Denver entering the final 2 weeks and have that direct head-to-head tiebreaker to be the 6th seed, kind of controlling their matchup around the AFC playoff picture, and not the 7th and final if they do end up beating Denver at home on Thursday night.
Yeah, a big game to say the least for the Chargers here. They have to figure some things out defensively, and they have to be able to get that running game going again. Otherwise, there's a certain way for them to win this game, Ben, and I don't think Herbert throwing it 40 times is the answer.
Yeah. I would also say, just so you know, potentially right now being the 6th seed, you would take on the AFC North champ. The 7 would take on the Texans. I'm not even sure a better position is more desirable. College sports next.
Yep.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Road manager is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid. A fun Tuesday night of sports because, as we have shared, beginning today, bowl season truly ramps up. Starting today, over the next 16 of those 19 days will feature at least one FBS college football game. That could be a bowl game or a college football playoff game leading up until January 4th. We've got 41 games in the next 16 days. Let's get ready for it. And Joe, a really good matchup early on in bowl season on this Tuesday night. Memphis takes on West Virginia at 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight in the Frisco Bowl. 5.5-point spread in favor of the Tigers now, who check in at number 25 in the final CFP rankings after the upset over Tulane to end out the regular season on Thanksgiving. West Virginia, not a successful season based on what the hope was after a 9-win campaign a year ago. Neil Brown was fired, but they're feeling pretty good there in Morgantown because Country Roads have taken Rich Rodriguez back home. Total stands at 58.5. Joe, a fun game in the Frisco Bowl to truly get bowl season underway. What do you make of it?
I mean, listen, I think it's intriguing that, Rich Rod is coming and all of that good stuff there. But I don't know. You got an interim head coach. You've got opt-outs all over the place. And in the meantime, I get an experienced quarterback in Seth Hennigan from Memphis, who is looking to finish his career tonight. And he's already won, 2 bowl starts here in his career. He is from the area, I believe. And I do think in Frisco, Texas, where they're playing this, call me crazy. I think this has got Memphis blowout written all over it here. Memphis throws the ball better than anybody. West Virginia couldn't defend the pass this year in the Big 12 against anybody, and it's not going to get any better here tonight. Too much uncertainty and too much consistency with Memphis. This, to me, has got blowout written all over it. It's Memphis or pass for me.
And the line is working that way for the Tigers. When you talk about Memphis, Joe, entering this matchup and really just where they have been the last few years, one of the most successful group of 5 programs that you will see there in the American. What Ryan Silverfield has done in his 5 years at the helm, taking over and continuing the success of Mike Norvell, who took over and continued the success of Justin Fuente in Memphis. This team in the Grind City, back-to-back seasons of double-digit wins. So Silverfield has led his team to what would have been bowl eligibility in at least all 5 seasons. Memphis did not play in a bowl game in 2021. This Memphis team in the last decade has had a double-digit win season in now 4 of those 10 years, including 2024. Memphis is a powerhouse in the American and a really good rushing defense as well. 11th best in the country. That's where West Virginia will still look to dominate on the ground. A lot on the horizon for Rich Rod's offensive scheme, where he led Jacksonville State to the 2nd best rushing offensive numbers this year. Garrett Green should return. Might we see a lot of that success on the ground? Chad Scott, the interim head coach for the Mountaineers, is the offensive play caller for WVU. So you wouldn't expect a drop-off there. But I do agree, Joe. Seth Hennigan, one final game, a really good Memphis offense. Mario Anderson was great this year for the Tigers on the ground. West Virginia's defense, not great. Over a ton this season, I believe in 8 of 12 games. Now, let's talk a little bit of college basketball. North Carolina has struggled mightily this year against power conference foes. Florida, now in the top 10, one of 5 remaining undefeated teams this season at the Division I level. Jumpman Classic starts tonight in Charlotte, and Florida is a slight favorite against UNC. Joe, how do you break it down?
I like this Florida team, but my question is, Ben, is now the time to buy low on UNC here? There is nothing I can say bad about Florida except for the fact that they've played the 161st toughest schedule in college basketball, according to Ken Palm. What that means is they haven't played anybody. They certainly haven't played a lot of the North Carolinas of the world. And on the flip side, North Carolina has played one of the toughest schedules in the country. So I don't know. This feels like a possible buy low spot on North Carolina, Ben.
I would agree, Joe. When you look at UNC, they have lost all 4 games in non-conference action against power conference foes. Florida has won all of their 4, but the level of difficulty of those games, slightly different. NBA Cup is next.
Uncle Stevie can just walk up the aisle like he's at the supermarket. I'll get a starting pitcher here, I'll get a closer here, I'll get a first baseman here, and he'll just keep throwing things in the cart because there is no limit.
Now he's gone, so they got to go get arms to make that team better. Because the bottom line was they were just outclassed by the Dodgers. Let's face it, they got their ass beat.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I want the mid-major teams. I want the A-10 to get 3 bids. I want, the Missouri Valley Conference to get an extra bid. I want these teams to go ahead that are 1-bid leagues and give some of these other teams opportunities to make the NCAA tournament. Simply put, folks, when we get to the tournament, we don't care about all these teams that are big-time teams.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A championship on the line tonight in Las Vegas. It is the second ever and second annual NBA in-season competition, the 2024 Emirates NBA Cup. Tonight in Las Vegas, in Sin City, between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Thunder, a 5-point favorite to win the Cup tonight with a total of 215 and a hook. Joe, we have reached the stage. The championship of the second ever in-season competition around the association. These games have been incredible. The atmospheres have felt the intensity of a playoff matchup. And with a title at stake tonight in Las Vegas, what are you expecting to see?
Yeah, I expect a blowout, if we're being honest here. I think OKC runs them off the court here, Ben. I don't see that. The energy on the defensive side of the ball against Giannis is going to be over the top. I think that they're going to force anybody else to try to make some shots here. And quite honestly, I don't trust the Milwaukee defense to even come remotely close to slowing the Oklahoma City Thunder down offensively. I think they'll get what they want. I think Hartenstein's set to have a absolutely monster game. And I think ultimately it's going to be fun to watch back and forth until Oklahoma City just wears down the Milwaukee Bucks here, who, by the way, have their big three all listed as questionable 24 hours ago. We'll see if there's anything more to that. But, I mean, I want everyone to watch this tonight, Ben, and then think, what would this team be like if Chet Holmgren was on the court?
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind.
Joe, they already are the Western Conference favorites. They already have the second best price to win the NBA championship. We expected OKC to play in monumental games like this one entering this year. Oklahoma City has lived up to that billing. Joe, although they might not win the Cup tonight, if you are correct, and as the odds makers expect, with the Thunder laying 5 points in Las Vegas, the Bucks have used the NBA Cup to resurrect their season. They entered their first game in group action against Toronto as a 2-8 basketball team in 2024-25. They have won 12 of their previous 15 to get to this stage tonight. Now, I do also want to talk about the total. 215 and a hook is where the number stands right now. We have talked about the intensity, the atmospheres of these games. Every other game throughout a run to the NBA Cup has counted to your regular season record, right? We are trying to incentivize the regular season in the NBA. This game does not. But the reason I bring up the total is because that intensity has been there. We have seen great defense. Both of these teams in their semifinal Saturday showdowns in Las Vegas played well to the under. OKC limited Houston to just 96 points. How much offense do we see tonight in Sin City?
I think you're going to see exactly the same thing. I mean, listen, OKC is not going to want to get into some sort of three-ball contest here with Lillard on the other side. What I do think is that whoever you think is going to lose this game, you should probably look at their team total under because I just don't see it happening. The Thunder have a million long athletic wings to defend and throw at Damian Lillard, Middleton, AJ Green, you name it. I think they're going to force probably, it's just going to be Giannis or bust at some point in this game. So I like his point prop to go over here tonight, but I just don't see it being enough because of the defensive effort by OKC. I don't think this is going to be a up-tempo game by any stretch, so I like OKC to win. I don't like Milwaukee to win this game, and I don't like their team total over. I'll look at their team total under as well.
The Thunder, one of three teams, along with the Cavs and the Celtics, to get to the 20-win benchmark already this season. As I've shared, Milwaukee using the NBA Cup after a 2-8 start to now be 14-11. So they're 3 games above 500. But OKC has just been dynamite all year long. In fact, Joe, in terms of covering numbers, the Thunder are the second best cover team in the NBA since the beginning of last season, a 58.6% ATS mark. The only team better, the Magic. Orlando is the only team at 60% or higher in terms of that cover percentage in the last year and a half in the NBA. The Bucks have not been an underdog frequently as they have started to play better basketball in this 15-game span that Milwaukee has won 12 times. Just twice a dog. They have covered in both, winning outright one time. OKC enters this game overall having won 5 consecutive, covering in all 5, a favorite in all 5. Now let's talk about those point props and the performers that you alluded to earlier. OKC certainly has that perimeter length to frustrate Damian Lillard, who has the second highest prop of 22.5 for Milwaukee. Giannis the highest for the Bucks at 30.5, but the highest number for Oklahoma City, that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 32 and a hook. I do not remember the last time, Joe, that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander played in an NBA game without a point prop around 28.5 to 32 and a hook. He lives in this margin because of his consistency. What do you expect out of the Thunder in terms of their offensive output tonight?
Yeah, I think it's going to be led by, well, you know who, right? SGA here, 32.5 points it's acceptable then, because I think it's going to be very difficult when he gets out in a transition for the Milwaukee Bucks, who are, by the way, the oldest team, I believe, right now outside of the Lakers in the NBA. So they are not going to want to run with Oklahoma City, who has one of the youngest rosters in there. So I think Hartenstein's going to be able to feast here tonight. And I do believe SGA this could be his big shining moment here to win the cup, come out and be absolutely dominant and be at the free throw line a lot. That wouldn't shock me either.
As he was, by the way, in the semifinal victory over the Rockets on Saturday, 15 times. He made 14. He had a game-high 32 points. He had 39 a week ago in the quarterfinal matchup against the Dallas Mavericks. He has had at least 26 points in every NBA Cup game, group play, quarterfinal, semifinal so far for OKC. Are you getting a discount on Jalen Williams at 22.5? Not necessarily. He has had at least 18 in the last 2 knockout winner-go-home type games in the NBA Cup, but 20 against Houston on Saturday, 18 a week ago against the Mavericks. Did have 28 to clinch the group for OKC in group play action now 2 weeks ago against the Utah Jazz. A lot at stake tonight. It should be a very fun game. Joe, let's talk beyond the NBA Cup, right? These teams using this as a springboard. Again, the Thunder expected to be in a spot like this, but not just for an NBA Cup, but also a Western Conference crown in the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Oklahoma City, second best price to win the NBA championship behind the reigning title winners in Boston. The short favorites already to win the Western Conference title. It feels fitting, Joe, to see OKC with those short numbers.
And it should. They are one of these teams that's going to be around, Ben, well into the next decade. However, you can't get me to discount Doncic and Kyrie and Dallas again and what they're doing. Styles make fights. OKC should be the favorite. But, boy, there's a lot of basketball still to be played. Plus, the trade deadline is now open. Be very interesting to see who loads up to beat them.
Plus 175, the number for Oklahoma City. Luka Doncic and the Mavericks, as you alluded to, second shortest price at plus 550. Milwaukee 11-1 in the Eastern Conference, where it already feels like a tier of two between the Cavs and the Celtics. Boston already minus money at minus 110 to win the Eastern Conference title again. Joe Ranieri, as always, your services here on a Tuesday on the early line are highly appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your day. Jon Rothstein joins us for college basketball talk up next.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting at the hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashed.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. Maybe he texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
This might only be December, but it's a big Tuesday night in college hoops. We've got Big East action in a big way. We've got a matchup in Charlotte in the Jumpman Classic with a top 10 Florida team and North Carolina, and plenty more to entertain. So on this Tuesday, we welcome in Jon Rothstein, joining us on behalf of the FanDuel Sportsbook, of course, one of the best in college basketball, working with CBS Sports. Jon, as always, we appreciate your time live right here on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid.
Ben, happy holidays to you and your beautiful family.
Thank you very much, John. Right back at you, my friend. I've got a Hanukkah dinner tonight, as we'll have some great college hoops in the background. I'm sure
Time out. What does one eat at a Hanukkah dinner?
We got some latkes. We're going to have some brisket. I think matzo ball soup. Is that okay?
Look, you and I are both proud members of the tribe, but we know as well as anybody else that members of the tribe make one thing especially well for dinner, and that's reservations.
That's very good, John. Wasn't sure we were good. That was very, very good. All right, let's go to a big matchup tonight in Charlotte. The Jumpman Classic with one of the 5 remaining undefeated Division I men's basketball teams on the stage tonight, welcoming in the in-state team in North Carolina. John, Florida, now number 7 in the country in the AP poll released yesterday. The Gators, a perfect 10-0 this year, and a 3.5-point favorite against the UNC team that already has 4 losses to its credit this season. Let's start with the game itself. How competitive do you expect tonight's tilt to be in Charlotte?
Well, really competitive because it's a matchup of elite perimeters. I think, Florida is the least appreciated team in college basketball right now. And Walter Clayton Jr., Florida's star guard, is the least appreciated player in college basketball. He's having an All-American type season. But the troika that Todd Golden possesses on the perimeter, Walter Clayton Jr., Elijah Martin, a transfer from Florida Atlantic, and Will Richard, might be the most underrated perimeter in the sport. And then you look on the other side, you have a North Carolina team whose strength is clearly on the perimeter with Elliot Cadeau, R.J. Davis, Seth Trimble, Ian Jackson, and Drake Powell. So I expect this to be a high-scoring affair, a very aesthetically pleasing game on deck tonight in Charlotte.
When you look at North Carolina, all 4 losses in the non-conference against power conference foes. Florida has 4 wins in non-conference action against power conference competition as well. You have covering as the favorite in all 4 of those games. John, let's keep it with Florida right now, but in the bigger picture of the SEC. When you look around the SEC, 5 of the top 7 teams in the AP poll from the Southeastern Conference, including the Gators. 7 of the top 14, 8 of the top 17 in the AP top 25, 13 of the top 50 in the net rankings. John, when you look at the SEC, is this the best conference in the country in college basketball?
It's not even close, Ben. And, I remember in the 2011 season, in the 2011 NCAA tournament, when the old Big East got 11 teams into the NCAA tournament. The SEC this year is going to fully take aim at that record. As you had referenced, as of yesterday, 13 of the 16 teams in the SEC are ranked in the top 50 of the net as of Monday. And the bottom of the league, Ben, is really what's so surprising. Oklahoma was picked 15th in the SEC preseason poll. Oklahoma is undefeated, 14th in the country according to the AP. I have them 10th in the Rothstein 45. And Oklahoma gets a crack at a very good Michigan team tomorrow night in Charlotte. Vanderbilt, picked dead last in the SEC, has played very good basketball under Mark Byington, who did yeoman's work last year at James Madison. The bottom of this league has been extremely capable. The SEC, no doubt, will be a double-digit bid league in 2025. And again, will take aim at the old Big East record of 11 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Quick follow-up, 10.5. If I set that as the over-under for SEC bids to the big dance, you going over or under?
Over.
I like that. They will look to make history this year in the Southeastern Conference. Oklahoma, as John alluded to, in a top 25 tilt in the Jumpman Classic tomorrow in Charlotte against number 24 Michigan. The Sooners, one of those other 5 undefeated teams still remaining at the D1 level. John, as we talk about the Big East, we'll show those conference championship odds as well. Big nights in the Big East. A lot of Big East action fully underway this week. UConn and Marquette will make their Big East debuts tomorrow. And those are still the 2 top teams in terms of the conference odds. Plus 175 for the Huskies, plus 195 for the Golden Eagles. Do those 2 clubs, John, still remain the clear favorites to win the Big East regular season title?
Yeah, I think so. I do think that St. John's is being a bit undervalued nationally, considering what the Red Storm have had happen to them in the non-conference portion of the schedule. Ben, you remember the game against Baylor and Baha Mar as well as I do. If St. John's were to close that out, if St. John's were to make free throws or Jeremy Roach misses that shot, St. John's is a top 15 team now in college basketball, but that didn't happen. St. John's, I think, a little bit undervalued going into Big East play starting tonight against against DePaul at Carnesec Arena. Marquette's been obviously outstanding under Shaka Smart. Cam Jones is a National Player of the Year candidate, and UConn has regained its mojo, has regained its form during this 4-game winning streak since the Huskies came back from Maui. Long before Dan Hurley was a 2-time national champion, he thrived in the role of challenger. The Maui Invitational this year brought Dan Hurley back to his roots. You know, it wouldn't shock me if at the end of this week we're again looking at UConn as a runaway train. And the question, Ben, is will anybody be able to catch them? But you know as well as I do, this is only December.
It certainly is only December. St. John's at Carnesecca, 12.5-point favorite against DePaul tonight. Villanova opens up Big East play, laying 8.5 against Seton Hall. John, let me direct your attention to undefeated Drake and Ben McCullum headed to the Little Apple today to take on K-State. Is that the best game elsewhere in college hoops tonight?
Well, it's definitely one of them. You know, Ben McCullum has been a revelation after such a successful career as a Division II head coach. He's 9-0 entering tonight's game against Kansas State. And, you know, we have seen non-Division I head coaches have great success transitioning to the D1 level. Josh Schertz, who's at St. Louis now, is at Indiana State last season, is obviously the latest example. But Ben McCullum, a D2 coach, now he's at Drake. Ben, started from the bottom, now he's here.
Oh. What a catchphrase to end it, John. Thank you. More of the early line next.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
You know, I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill. Then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all. Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
What a great show it was today on the Early Line. We still have a few more minutes before we go on this Tuesday to send you into the rest of your afternoon. You saw it right there, by the way, when we were breaking it down with Jon Rothstein. What a great Tuesday slate we have in college basketball. Of course, the marquee matchup in Charlotte, UNC trying to get its season back on track. 4 losses for the Tar Heels, as we mentioned, but all 4 against non-conference power conference foes. They have not covered in 3 of the 4, but UNC still an opportunity to make some noise against the Florida team as a 3.5-point dog in the Tar Heel State, albeit not in the Dean Dome. That game in Charlotte tonight against Todd Golden and the Gators. UF, one of the 5 remaining undefeated teams in the sport, a perfect 10-0. John made mention of Drake, by the way, starting from the bottom. Now they're there. Drake, a great mid-major program in the Missouri Valley. But what Ben McCollum has done, taking over for Darian DeVries, incredible so far this year. Coming from Northwest Missouri State, where he was a 4-time Division II NCAA champ, they are off to a perfect 9-0 start with marquee wins over Miami, who is struggling, FAU, and a Vanderbilt team that John highlighted as one of the strengths of the depth of the SEC. Drake winning outright in all 3 of those games as an underdog. The Bulldogs will have another opportunity as a dog in the Octagon of Doom tonight against the Kansas State team that frankly is struggling under Jerome Tang this season. All right, college basketball aside, bowl games tonight. As we alluded to, the Frisco Bowl between Memphis and West Virginia gets going tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. But pretty soon, and I mean very soon, the college football playoff will begin. It is a new era. It is a new landscape in this sport. We have never seen 12 teams play in the playoff. We have never seen 12 teams play in the postseason with an opportunity to be crowned a national champ. And that starts this week. In fact, it starts in just 3 days on a Friday night in South Bend, Indiana, between Notre Dame and IU. And now we have the opportunity to do something in college football that we really have not had outside of the NCAA tournament in basketball. Paint the path, right? Oftentimes it might not just be about your resume. It could be your seed line, your potential matchups. Who else is looming in your portion of the bracket? That is certainly the case here for the college football playoff. Interesting market the FanDuel Sportsbook made available yesterday. Based on the potential teams that could play into the quarterfinal round, which of those bowl games gives us our national champ? The Rose Bowl is the shortest at plus 145. The teams that could play in the Rose Bowl, we know Oregon, the number 1 seed, awaits the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee. So when you have the 1 seed in Oregon, who is the slight national championship favorite, a Buckeyes team alongside Georgia, tied for the 3rd best number to win the title this year, it would make sense to see our Rose Bowl trio as the most likely grouping to go on and win a national championship. But does it present value? My argument would be absolutely not. What about in the Sugar Bowl, where the winner of Notre Dame and Indiana will visit those Georgia Bulldogs? Game in New Orleans, not necessarily a visit, but of course we know there will be a large UGA contingent at the Sugar Bowl. Georgia, the 2 seed, with a favorable path. Notre Dame and Indiana in a difficult matchup against the Bulldogs. But we're not entirely sure about the health of the quarterback position for UGA right now. How about a couple of those at-large teams that seemingly have a favorable path to get to a semifinal appearance or a national championship game as well? Texas, an 11.5-point favorite on Saturday against Clemson, would then certainly be a favorite against Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. That would be a plus 320 price. This one's a little bit intriguing. Plus 470. Now, Penn State to beat SMU, 8.5-point favorite for the Nittany Lions to do that in Happy Valley. They would be near a double-digit favorite against Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State at a minus 178 number is favored rather heavily to get to the semifinals. Does it make more sense to bet plus 470 for the Fiesta Bowl champ to win the national championship, or just Penn State itself? It's still just Penn State itself. Yes, you have groupings that present a little bit of value, but I would focus individually, despite a fun market, in terms of what FanDuel is putting up there. Those, your national championship odds. That does it for this Tuesday, right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Show returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on a Wednesday.